A week since a devastating wildfire tore through parts of Table Mountain and destroyed the University of Cape Town's library. That library was 200 years old, but that's not the only piece of history lost. The Rhodes Memorial and the Mostert mill also went up in flames. Thousands of people were forced to evacuate their homes and student residences. But what next then for those affected? Our reporters are out and about today across Cape Town. Lindsay Dentlinger, Ronald Masinda and Monique Mortlock all joining us live for an update on the situation. And Ronald, I want to come to you first. Firefighters have been speaking to you saying that their working conditions are becoming more unbearable. What exactly is the issue?
Well, Tembekile, firefighters say that they've been at loggerheads with the management since 2019. That follows a strike action where City of Cape Town management deemed that strike action to be illegal. Now, there's been since an investigation into the strike action, and around 525 firefighters have now been threatened to lose their jobs. Firefighters back then had said that they were demanding better remuneration when they've worked overtime, and among other things, they also wanted better, working hours, as they felt they were too exhausted to work repeated shifts. Now, this week was a very important week for firefighters, but many of them feel that they were hard done by and that their reality will soon sink in, as people have seen them as people who have been courageous and heroes during this time. They feel down and out. And this is what one of the firefighters had to say, who has asked for us to hide his identity.
First and foremost, I think it's an act of stupidness, if I may use that word on your TV, to do so. The decision by the city officials to dismiss 525 smacks of just being arrogant. These gentlemen work 24-hour shifts. They were told by the traffic or the fire chief that they don't work from 6 at night until the next morning when they're supposed to go off duty. That's a lie. They are on duty. If there's 1 o'clock, there's a fire, there's an accident, these guys are dispersed immediately. They are ready to work. And so it's a lie. Secondly, they are told that if they dismiss them, they don't worry because there's people that want to work. That is a mentality of apartheid, boss type of mentality. To say, if you don't want to work on my farm, you can go, we've got somebody else. That's that kind of a mentality. And one would have thought that in, having been in 2021 where we are with taking COVID in consideration, the mass job losses, we wouldn't talk like this. That kind of talk should be gone. Yet this is the way that the city officials think, and we are very disturbed by that.
And Ronald, how is the City of Cape Town responding, if at all, to this unhappiness from the firefighters?
Of course, that soundbite is from Peter Bester from COSATU, who we also spoke to last night during the night visual. But what the City of Cape Town has since said, spoke to Jermaine Carlse earlier on, who says that there is a disciplinary process that's still underway. But the City of Cape Town, through its Twitter feed, has since written to me saying, among other things, Tembekile, that the current shift agreement to which SAMU are in agreement with has been declared valid and binding in terms of a labour court judgment and remains in force until a new agreement is negotiated between the two parties. But a lot of people who spoke to firefighters earlier on, Tembekile, have also said that, the City of Cape Town doesn't really care about their needs. Many of them have been working as a fire and rescue service workers for over 20 to 25 years, and they've been told by, allegedly told by management that they are not irreplaceable. So this is one of the confessions that we heard earlier on. Of course, we're still going to hear from the City of Cape Town, as this is a developing story. SAMU has since said that they've now been, processing or writing a memorandum of demand, saying that they will continue demanding for the City of Cape Town to help firefighters to not lose their jobs. We've seen quite a lot of celebrations here in the City of Cape Town. Alan Winde, the Premier, as well as City of Cape Town Mayor Dan Plato, lauding the efforts of firefighters. But firefighters certainly don't feel like they are in celebratory mode given their current situation.
Ronald Masinda, stand by. I want to bring in another of our reporters, Monique Mortlock, also out in Cape Town. Monique, it's about 5 days since those disastrous fires. How much of the devastation from that day, the destruction, are you seeing where you're standing today?
Temikili, a little earlier we were at the Rhodes Memorial Tea Room where we really got a good look at the hectares and hectares of devastation on the slopes of Table Mountain, and standing among what used to be the tea room, it really brought the reality of how devastating those flames were. And while speaking to Sandparks, they were also saying that even though the fire has been contained, they will continue monitoring that area, monitoring for flare-ups. While we were there, we saw a fire truck arriving, just checking the area. There was a team from disaster risk management also there, and Sandparks has said that even though the fire has been contained, they still need to assess the area. There's still they are concerned about when heavy rains fall, that there might be mudslides, water flooding, because some of the soil is loose. We even saw some trees, some burnt trees, tree branches falling, so still a dangerous situation over there. The public have been warned to steer clear of that area. But where I'm standing right now, I'm at the Old Mutual offices, and Old Mutual has given us space for the week for humanitarian NGO Gift of the Givers, who we always see whenever there's any type of disaster, whether it be a shack fire in a township or a disaster like this one. And this has been their makeshift command center of sorts for the week. It's a completely different picture right now from the one that I saw in the week. I'm going to ask my colleague Mario to show you. Here are still volunteers busy packing boxes, packing those donations that have been dropped off here over the week. When we were here just yesterday, this entire floor was still covered with tables filled with donations. Ali, I'm just going to ask you to take a step towards me while Mario shows our viewers what's happening. Ali Siblay, scene right now from the one we saw over the last couple of days. What's happening here?
Good afternoon, Monique, and to the viewers out there. As we know, this has been the command center since day one. This was where all the goods, where distribution took place from here to the various 29 hotels. The students are back in the residence now. This morning we sent some goods to the residents, to different UCT the residents. Then as well, while we were busy at the residence, the university asked CPUT. CPUT is also facing some difficulty. Is it possible we could send to the CPUT? So our vans are there at the moment distributing there as well. Monique, we made a call 2 days ago informing the public, please don't send any more goods. We have enough goods for the next few days or weeks. Stop all goods in cash and kind. But it looked like the public took it the other way around. Goods are still streaming in here by the numbers. We thought we will be done yesterday. It looks like it will only be done next week and Monday. Public are still bringing in goods. There are trucks still coming to offload here. We have already sent about 30 pallets to our warehouse. We are busy filling up another truck. And already I'm getting phone calls. So what time are you guys here? We'd love to drop off some goods. But we're telling them we're not collecting anymore. But they're saying you guys can use it in any other disadvantaged community and wherever the need is. So there you could see the spirit of compassionate and the generosity of the South African public.
And speaking about that quickly, Ali, this isn't the only operation Gift of the Givers is busy with. You are busy all over in different parts of South Africa. How else will you be utilizing the overflow of donations?
As we know, there are many rural schools. We already received today calls. As we know, school holidays started today. We had many calls from principals in the rural areas. They are worried. They are going on holiday. You know, the only meal the children are getting from the school. They are worried what the children are going to eat for the next week. We told them from next week onwards, we'll be distributing the surplus goods to some of those schools where teachers will be working during the school holidays just to come in for those few hours, providing a meal to their children. So we have many areas and many projects where the surplus goods will be donated. And for that, even though we tried stopping the donations, people still said that, you know, there's a greater need out there as well. So we'd like to support those initiatives as well.
Thank you very much. That was Ali Siblay from Gift of the Givers, talking there about the overflow of donations that they've been receiving and how Gift of the Givers will be using it. So some good coming from the devastation that we've been seeing over the last few days, that it's not only UCT students and CPUT students that will be helped, but also poor communities, rural communities in need of food.
Monique Motlock at that Disaster Relief Centre. For now, thank you. Let's bring in a third member of our team in Cape Town, Lindsay Dentlinger. And Lindsay, you've been focusing on the situation at UCT, the university currently trying to make sense of the loss in that fire of its historic African pieces. What are the librarians telling you specifically?
So as you can see behind me, Tembekile, much focus today on the roof of this library called the Jagger Library. We will see some people hoisted by two cranes on the roof. The head of the libraries here at UCT telling me today that that's the focus right now, is to lift the roof trusses of this building, and simultaneously librarians are sifting through the debris, working out what is salvageable, what is not. Earlier today we saw volunteers bringing in crates and boxes to help remove the articles and the books and all kinds of other items that have been salvaged so far, and putting them in a room somewhere away from this library. There's a tent you might be able to see in your shot to the left, where they are working out what needs urgent attention, what has been damaged, Tembekile, by the water that kept on running, as you can imagine, on Monday to keep dousing the flames, and that water dropped down into the basement levels. So a lot really has been happening here today to try to salvage what they can from this library. And as I said, the head of the libraries here at UCT telling me today that this incident really sparks a national conversation about how we protect our history, how we look after cultural artifacts. It's not just about their age or the fact that they are priceless. There's a bigger conversation that needs to be had about protecting the kinds of items that were housed in this library. Let's take a listen to what she told me earlier today.
It's actually very difficult to quantify, because rarity depends on the content, the value, the age, and the sentiment around materials. So it's not only about that which was published in the 18th century or the 19th century, but it's also an individual's personal papers, a family that may have donated and gifted their papers to us based on their parents' research, etc., or their involvement in the struggle. So we need to put into perspective what exactly does value and rarity mean. We tend to hark much on the fact that it was published in a particular period, represents a particular time in history. That's very important for us to preserve.
And sadly, Lindsay, UCT is not the only historic site in Cape Town that's had to count its losses from this fire.
Yes, indeed, Tembekile, a lot of focus has been placed here at UCT, because certainly this is where some of the very shocking scenes of Sunday took place. And you've heard from Monique where the fire also ripped through the Rhodes Memorial Tea Room. But Tembekile, earlier this week I stumbled upon reparation work already beginning at Mostert's mill, the oldest working mill in sub-Saharan Africa. Well, at least it was still the last working mill until Sunday. They had spent months, and I must add that mill, although it is protected or the responsibility of public works, it's a group of volunteers in Cape Town that call themselves the Friends of Mostert Mill, and they spend all their free time and their money to keep that mill in running order. They had just gotten it up and running on Saturday afternoon after 6 months of trying to get a brake system in place, and then the fire ripped through that mill. But Tembekile, just like here at UCT, where they've just gotten off the ground immediately to get cracking to salvage what they can, so too are these volunteers already hard at work trying to restore, trying to work out what needs to be done. They're even raising money in the Netherlands to try to get what's an iconic landmark in Cape Town. At the time, there wasn't a single postcard to be had without the mill on it, to get it up and running. To take a watch at what they've already been doing since Sunday in efforts to try to restore the iconic Mostert's mill.
Burnt out and destroyed. Years of work to make Mostert's mill fully functional reduced to mangled wreckage. Designing the perfect brake system had taken 10 months.
Perhaps if there's any consolation, it is the fact that we did finish on Saturday, that we did have the mill running absolutely perfectly after 6 years of effort. All that we've really been able to save are all the metal pieces that we've got locked away.
But those who've spent years restoring it are not defeated. The millstones still appear usable, and the sails might also still turn again.
My hope is that we, the public of South Africa, can raise enough money to get the building itself back into where it should be. And hopefully there will be enough money in the overseas account to pay the millwrights in the Netherlands to come out and to reconstruct the machinery inside the mill.
Crowdfunding in the Netherlands hopes to raise €500,000.
We are determined that it shall swing again.
Across the highway, the restaurateur of another iconic Cape Town landmark has been unable to assess the damage to the Rhodes Memorial Tea Room. Patrons were enjoying Sunday breakfast when the area was darkened by smoke.
We then asked people to leave their plate, to leave their food and just leave the restaurant. People offered to pay us, let's just go. And then I turned around to have a meeting with my staff to explain to them this is what's happening. But when I looked again, the flames were, I could see the flames coming rushing across.
Leon, who's run this restaurant for more than a decade, believes nothing can be salvaged.
Devastating. You can't put it into context. It's absolutely devastating.
Fundraising has started to assist around 20 affected staff. Lindsay Dentlinger,